Hi, and welcome to English-Fabule. Are you learning English? Great. Let's learn English with a very interesting story. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment. Let's get started.
The autumn air in Canada is often cool and crisp in October. Red and gold leaves fall from the trees, making streets look beautiful. Inside Canadian homes, families get ready for Thanksgiving. You might hear the quiet sounds of a Canadian Football League game on television, or the rhythmic chopping of vegetables for stuffing. A large turkey might be cooking slowly in the oven, filling the house with a warm smell. Children come home from school and kick through piles of colorful leaves on the sidewalk, a common and simple pleasure. This quiet picture of Canadian Thanksgiving is seen all over the country, from small towns to big cities. It is a holiday that feels calm and simple, especially when compared to its neighbor. In the United States, Thanksgiving is celebrated later, in November. That holiday is often much bigger and louder, a truly national event. It includes large parades, and many people travel long distances. There is also a huge shopping day called Black Friday, which marks the start of the holiday shopping season. But in Canada, Thanksgiving is different. You will not find large televised parades here. There are no famous presidential turkey pardons. And importantly, there is no busy shopping event like Black Friday right after the holiday. Instead, families come together quietly on a Monday in October, or sometimes on the weekend before. They share meals, mixing old traditions with practical choices. People feel thankful in a calm, understated way that truly feels like Canada. This distinct difference is very clear. While Americans prepare for what is almost a 4-day national celebration with travel chaos and elaborate feasts, Canadians approach their Thanksgiving with quietness. The holiday can be celebrated on any day of the long weekend, Saturday, Sunday, or Monday. This gives families flexibility, showing a different idea about how to celebrate and what traditions mean. This unique and calmer holiday makes us ask an important question about Canada's own identity. What does this earlier, more modest Thanksgiving reveal about the country that celebrates it? In a nation often described by what it is not American, not too loud, not overly confident, perhaps its most revealing national holiday is one that manages to be both familiar and fundamentally different, connected to history, yet strangely without one single grand national story. 2. The first parties. The first celebration, like a Thanksgiving in North America, happened long ago, in 1578. An English explorer, Martin Frobisher, led a journey to the Arctic. His ships were looking for a passage through the ice, but faced terrible storms and dangerous frozen waters. His men were in great danger. After a very difficult time, Frobisher's ships found each other again in Frobisher Bay, now part of Nunavut. To show their thanks, Frobisher held a special church service. They ate a simple meal of salted beef and biscuits. This was not a celebration of a rich harvest. Instead, it was a quiet thank you for simply surviving in a very hard land. About 30 years later, in 1606, a French explorer named Samuel de Champlain started something new in Nova Scotia. He created the Order of Good Cheer at Port Royal. This was more than just a party. It was a clever way to keep his French settlers healthy and happy. The winter before had been terrible. Many settlers died from scurvy because they were trapped by ice. Champlain believed that good food and high spirits could help prevent the sickness. The Mi'kmaq people were very important to Champlain's plan. Their leaders, like Chief Membertou, joined the French at their feasts. The Mi'kmaq shared their knowledge and helped the French settlers survive. They showed the French how to use cranberries. The Mi'kmaq called them little red apples. These berries had vitamin C, which helped to stop scurvy. Without the Mi'kmaq's help, the French settlers would have faced even greater hardships. These early events show how Canadian Thanksgiving began. They were rooted in practical needs, survival in harsh lands, and fighting sickness. These were not grand romantic stories. Unlike some other countries, Canada's first gatherings were not turned into a big national myth about founding or religious freedom. Instead, they highlight practical origins and the help of Indigenous peoples, rather than a single glorious national legend. 3. A day to say thanks. Making Thanksgiving an official holiday in Canada was not simple. The first time Canada officially celebrated Thanksgiving after becoming a country was not in the autumn. It was on April 5, 1872. This special day was to celebrate the Prince of Wales getting better after being sick. After that, the holiday date moved many times. It was like a traveler moving from one place to another on the calendar. Sometimes people celebrated Thanksgiving in November. Other times, it was on the same day as Armistice Day. This day later became known as Remembrance Day. The date kept changing. For example, November 6, 1879 was the first time it was celebrated every year. But by 1921, Thanksgiving and Armistice Day were on the same Monday in November. In 1931, the government separated the two holidays. Armistice Day became Remembrance Day. Thanksgiving moved back to October. Still, its exact date was decided year by year, not fixed. Finally, on January 31, 1957, Canada's Parliament made a final decision. They said Thanksgiving would always be on the second Monday in October. They called it a day of general thanksgiving to Almighty God for the bountiful harvest with which Canada has been blessed. This long and changing process shows that Canada often chooses what is practical and useful, rather than a single grand story for its holidays. 4. Food on the table. Modern Canadian Thanksgiving has a special rhythm. It happens on the second Monday in October. This timing is good because winter comes early in Canada. The harvest season is often finished weeks before the American Thanksgiving, with many farmers already dealing with frost. For most families, a roasted turkey is the main dish. But Canadian Thanksgiving meals show many differences across the country. In Newfoundland, families often gather for Jigs dinner, a hearty meal with salt beef, cabbage, and root vegetables. In Quebec, tourtière, a spiced meat pie, is also popular. Across the prairies, some families include foods like Ukrainian pierogies or Mennonite cabbage rolls. These regional variations highlight Canada's rich diversity. The holiday is very flexible. The official day is Monday, but families can have their big meal on Saturday, Sunday, or Monday. This helps manage work schedules and travel plans. The family gathering is often more important than following strict traditions on a specific day. This flexibility is a key part of the Canadian celebration. During the long weekend, many Canadians might quietly watch Canadian Football League CFL games. There is a special double-header broadcast across the country on Thanksgiving Day. These games usually play in the background as families talk and eat, not dominating the day like American football. Thanksgiving is celebrated differently in various parts of Canada. In the Atlantic provinces, it is sometimes an optional holiday for businesses. In Quebec, known as Action de Grâce, many French-speaking families celebrate it less or not at all. This regional choice reflects Canada's federal system and different cultures. People also enjoy the natural environment. October is perfect for a last camping trip, a final weekend at the cottage, or hikes to see fall colors. Canadian Thanksgiving feels like a gentle pause before winter. It is a moment to be thankful and to prepare for colder months, not a big commercial event. It is a quiet time for reflection and family. 5. Two big countries. Canadian Thanksgiving is very different from American Thanksgiving. The dates are not the same. Canadians celebrate their holiday in early October. Americans celebrate in late November. This difference shows how each country connects to the seasons and the land. Canadian Thanksgiving is close to the real harvest time, when farmers finish their work. It feels connected to country life, even if many people live in cities now. American Thanksgiving, set in November by President Abraham Lincoln in 1863, is less about farming and more about culture and shopping. The biggest difference is about money and shopping. American Thanksgiving marks the start of the Christmas shopping season. It is followed by huge sales days like Black Friday, Small Business Saturday, and Cyber Monday. These 4 days are a massive shopping event across the country. Billions of dollars are spent, and millions of Americans eagerly participate in what has become a national shopping ritual. Stores plan their sales months ahead, and people often organize their holiday shopping around these big deals. Canada does not have this same commercial frenzy for its Thanksgiving. While Canadian stores have started to offer Black Friday sales, these usually happen in November, a month after Canadian Thanksgiving. This shows that Canada's holiday remains largely uncommercial. It focuses more on family gatherings and thankfulness than on buying new things. The scale of the celebration also shows big differences. In the United States, Thanksgiving is a massive national event. There are famous parades, like the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade in New York. The President of the United States, for example, might even perform a ceremonial pardon for a turkey. Nationally televised football games draw huge audiences, like the Super Bowl. Everyone in the country seems to do many of the same things at the same time. This creates a strong feeling of national unity and shared experience. In Canada, Thanksgiving is much quieter. There are no grand parades or political turkey pardons. The Canadian Football League has a special doubleheader on Thanksgiving Day, but these games are more like background entertainment for family time. They do not dominate the day in the way American football does. Canadian Thanksgiving is more relaxed and flexible. Families can choose to have their feast on Saturday, Sunday, or Monday, which helps with busy schedules and travel plans. Travel is another key difference. American Thanksgiving is known as one of the busiest travel periods of the entire year. Millions of people travel by plane or car to visit family. This often causes huge problems at airports and on highways, creating famous traffic jams and delays. For Canadian Thanksgiving, travel is not as concentrated. Because the holiday is spread across a 3-day weekend and offers flexible timing, there is less intense travel congestion. In summary, American Thanksgiving is a grand national event that blends family time, important national rituals, and a big economic boost. It often links back to a powerful story about the Pilgrims. Canadian Thanksgiving, by contrast, is a quiet family weekend. It is more of a seasonal tradition than a huge national celebration. It values practicality and gathering over grand spectacles, showing fundamental differences in the two nations' characters. 6. Old stories. The United States celebrates Thanksgiving with a very strong story. It is the story of the Pilgrims and Native Americans sharing a meal long ago. This story is very important for Americans. It acts like a founding myth for their country. This powerful tale helps explain how the nation began and gives a shared past to its people. It links the present blessings to old traditions and national values. For Canada, Thanksgiving is different. There is no one big story like the Pilgrim's Tale that everyone knows. Canada's history has many stories about early Thanksgivings, such as Martin Frobisher's ceremony in the Arctic or Samuel de Champlain's feasts. These events were real and important. However, they are treated as historical facts, not grand legends or national myths. They are not changed into a single big story for the whole country. This difference shows something important about character. Canadians often prefer real facts and practical things over big dramatic stories. The country's history is full of many different, often quiet events. These events show how people worked hard to survive or found practical ways to live together. These historical moments are not turned into a single romanticized legend that defines the whole nation. American Thanksgiving helps to build a clear national identity through its famous story. It gives a single picture of how the nation started and what it stands for. But Canadian Thanksgiving does not do this in the same way. It is a holiday that comes from many different small events over time and across different regions. This shows Canada's comfort with many different histories and diverse narratives, not just one. Canadians are happy with a holiday that feels practical and real. It is a time for being thankful for the harvest and gathering with family. It does not need a big, heroic myth or a grand national narrative. This preference for facts over legends reflects a country that is often more about quiet strength, realistic compromise, and everyday life than about loud, unifying stories. It suggests that Canada finds its identity in many small truths and adaptable traditions, rather than one large, powerful tale. 7. The first Canadians. Long before Europeans came, indigenous peoples in North America had their own ways to give thanks. For thousands of years, they celebrated harvests and showed gratitude. These were not just simple parties, they were important parts of their lives, connected to their farming and spiritual beliefs. For example, some groups grew corn, beans, and squash, which they called the Three Sisters. They had special ceremonies to thank the land for these foods. Indigenous communities also learned how to live well with nature. They fished for salmon without harming the fish populations, and hunted animals in ways that kept them plentiful. This shows that their food systems were very smart and worked for a long time. When the first Europeans arrived, sometimes indigenous knowledge and help were key to their survival, such as teaching them about local foods and medicines. However, the story of Thanksgiving often does not talk about the hard history that came later. This difficult time is called colonialism. It brought many challenges after first contact between indigenous peoples and settlers. Over the centuries, indigenous peoples were often pushed aside. Their lands were taken, and their cultures were sometimes forbidden. For example, the Canadian government created the Indian Act in 1876. This law made indigenous people like wards of the state. It greatly limited their freedom, their movement, and their old customs. For many years, indigenous children were forced to go to residential schools. In these schools, many children suffered abuse, were separated from their families, and lost their language and culture. This history means that many traditional harvest celebrations were interrupted or forgotten. Because of this, today, indigenous peoples have different ideas about Thanksgiving. Some do not like the holiday because it reminds them of this painful past. They see it as a time that ignores the truth of what happened and the problems that indigenous communities still face, like poverty and health issues. They feel that the holiday can hide the history of colonialism. However, other indigenous people still gather with their families. They might use the day to spend time together, just like many other Canadians. Some indigenous leaders suggest that the holiday can be a chance to teach others. They believe it can be a time for learning about indigenous history and cultures, and for building better relationships between indigenous and non-indigenous people. This is different from the United States, where some indigenous groups have a national day of mourning instead of Thanksgiving. In Canada, Indigenous responses are more varied, showing the complex history and ongoing journey toward reconciliation. 8. A quiet Thanksgiving. The most important thing about Canadian Thanksgiving is its quietness. This holiday is not about big parades or a lot of shopping. Instead, it tells us much about Canada as a country. Canada is practical, flexible, and has many cultures. The holiday perfectly reflects these parts of the Canadian identity. Canadian Thanksgiving is practical because it happens in early October. This is when the harvest is truly finished in Canada, before the cold winter begins. This timing makes sense for a northern country. Also, families can be flexible about when they celebrate their meal. Some eat on Saturday, some on Sunday, and some on Monday. This flexible approach means the holiday fits easily into people's busy lives. There is no stress to celebrate on one specific day, like the official Monday. This ease makes travel less hectic too, unlike other holidays. The holiday values family time more than a big national show. People gather with loved ones to share food and good times. There are no huge, nationally televised events or major commercial sales tied directly to this holiday, like Black Friday in another country. The focus is on gathering at home, perhaps watching a Canadian Football League game in the background. This quiet focus on close family bonds is central to the Canadian way. It is a time for simple gratitude, not for public spectacle or pressure to buy things. Canada's Thanksgiving also shows that a country can be strong without needing one single grand story. Many nations have big myths that define their holidays. But Canada's Thanksgiving does not have a powerful, romanticized founding myth like some others. The historical stories of early explorers are treated as interesting historical facts. They are not turned into sacred national legends. This means Canada is comfortable with its complex and sometimes messy history. It does not need one big, simple tale to define itself or its Thanksgiving. This quiet holiday reflects a nation that is okay with being modest and accepting many different things. Canada accepts its many different cultures and various historical accounts. It does not try to make everyone conform to one tradition. The Thanksgiving celebration welcomes different foods from diverse backgrounds, different family traditions, and many different ways to give thanks. This shows Canada's comfort with complexity and its multicultural nature. In the end, Canadian Thanksgiving offers a powerful lesson. A nation can be successful and united by simply being real and allowing for diversity. It can celebrate gratitude in a quiet, personal way. It does not need loud events, massive travel, or grand national stories to feel meaningful. It just needs a moment for sincere thanks, shared with those who matter most as another season changes and winter approaches. What do you think makes a holiday truly special in your country, beyond parades or sales?
Hey there! Just a second before you go. If you learned something new today, please give this video a like, write your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to the channel. It only takes a second, and it really, really helps to create even better English videos for you. Your support means the world. Thank you.